Welcome, everybody, to the Auto Lab. We are here for the first time on Saturday afternoon, bringing you all the latest and greatest news in the automotive world with some very interesting guests and very exciting topics. We're here every Saturday, but this is the first time we're on Facebook alone in the afternoon.
Here, here.
Here, yes.
I love being able to sleep this morning.
Oh my God.
All right. We're here with David Goldsmith, best tech in Brooklyn.
I'm used to saying good morning, folks, but now I can say almost good evening. It's great to be here.
We have Jerry and Johanna Pastori in Seaford, New York.
Good evening.
Good afternoon.
All right. We have Peyton Knight in New Jersey.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Knight's Automotive.
Jeff Alon in Whitestone.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to be here. Hi, Michael.
Hi. We have Ian Carr, our resident car guy.
How you doing, Mike?
All right. And Alexander Soltanis, our resident car club guru. Hi, Alex.
Hey, Mike.
All right. You ready for the car show next week?
Oh, yeah. Amelia Island.
Amelia Island.
Nice.
All right. And we have Robert Erskine all the way from Suffolk, England.
Hi, everyone.
Foggy Suffolk.
It's bedtime here. Time staying up. I haven't got my pajamas on yet.
All
So
right,
welcome.
I am Mike Porcelli here in the Gold Shield headquarters. We are sponsored by the Gold Shield once again. All right. Today we have the honor of having a very special guest. Mark Green, I believe, hosts the #1 automotive podcast in the world. And he's taken some time today. Luckily, he didn't have to get up as early as we thought he would. So, Mark, I hope you got the extra sleep that you wanted.
Well, you know what? I woke up at 3:30 thinking, oh my gosh, I got a show to do. And then my wife said, what are you doing? They told you it was going to be at 2 p.m. Go back to sleep.
Yay.
Okay. So Mike and everybody, thank you for having me here. This is a real
Great to
honor.
have you, Mark.
Sure.
Well, thanks for joining us. And I know you've had how many podcasts have you done? Almost 2,000?
1,825, I believe, is the number right now. I'm always about 3 weeks ahead of myself, so I'd have to look, but it's a lot.
And I believe Alex has listened to most of them, haven't you, Alex?
I estimated to be about 1,200 of them, and
Wow.
And I've listened to bunches of them several times, 2 or 3 times actually.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Mark, do you give out a prize for anybody who listens to all of them?
Yes, I do. Chris Kimball, who's my financial advisor, has listened to all of them, so he gets to manage my money.
Does that mean if Alex listens to a few hundred more, he can get some of that money?
Sure, I'll write him a check. It's in the mail.
I'm working on it.
I really thought Alex was kidding me about I says, I've listened to over 1,000. I said, no, that's not possible,
Nope.
but I guess it's true.
8
Way to
hours a
go.
day, 8 hours a day at work, my headphones on. I just listen to, and not only yours, other ones too, but that's what I did. 8 hours
Wow.
a day.
You must be sick of me.
Ah.
Incredible.
Your voice is in my head.
Yeah, well, that could be good or bad.
All right. Mark, I know you have a very interesting history. Tell us how you got started. I know you've been a car guy all your life. How did that come about?
Yeah, ever since I drove that over there, that thing.
How did you fit in there?
Well, I was a lot smaller back then, and I had hair that blew in the wind. Well, it's a long story, but I'll try to condense it as best I can. I grew up in Southern California, car culture, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and there's lots of cool cars there. My father, I would say, probably started it for me. He loved old MGs and bought a 49 MG TC when I was 4 or 5 years old. And I remember riding, and that was so cool because it was right-hand drive. So you got to ride on the side where people steered, right? And he had an extra steering wheel he would let me carry so I could pretend like I was driving. And it was quite fun to pull up next to somebody who would look down in the car and go, why is that little kid driving the car? But that car really stands out for me. And that's what probably started it. my mom says I was born saying car, but I love cars, been around cars. And as my life progressed, there was always something about cars going on within my life.
So you got into the car business eventually. You started out detailing cars. Is that correct?
I did. My next door neighbor, Alan Swanser, was an FBI agent. Now imagine being a young man and having an next door neighbor who's an FBI agent. He was a bachelor, so he was kind of this cool dude. And I would go over there and talk to him about the FBI and what it's like to be in the FBI. And he bought the first 450 SL that came to San Diego. There was a dealership. I grew up in a suburb of San Diego called La Jolla, California, which is just north of San Diego. Really pretty place, close to the ocean. So I was a long-haired surfer kid back then, go to the beach every day. And he bought this 450 SL, and I went over to look at it. And he said, you're always out there washing your mom and dad's car. Would you like to wash my car for me? And I went, me? So he let me, that was before I had a driver's license, let me back it out of his driveway and drive it over to the front of my house. And I spent all day on that thing. I brought it back and parked it. And he came out and he said, wow, this is better than the day I bought it. I said, well, thanks, Mr. Swanser. And I turned around to walk away. And he goes, wait a minute. How much do I owe you? And I went, you're going to pay me? So a light bulb went on in my head, right? And he goes, well, I didn't expect you to detail my car for free. And I said, I don't know, how much is it worth? And I remember he gave me a $20 bill and a $5 tip. Now, this is big money back, in the 70s. I'm like, I went home and go, look what I made. And my father said, you know what? You look like you're having fun. What if, I had a paper route at the time, what if we made up some flyers, put them in your papers, and you started doing this for some of your paper route customers? So I created a business called Auto Care. And my dad helped me draw a picture of a Porsche Turbo, which I happen to have one today. And I went and put them in my papers, and a business was born. And I started doing that. And I did that all the way through high school, all the way through college. It helped pay for my college education. And even after college, when I got married, I continued to do some of my special clients with really cool cars on the weekends. And that helped save up money for my wife and I to buy our first home. So yeah, I was in the car detailing business for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, but I loved it. It was, for me, it was fun to take an old car that was all dirty and messed up and deliver it back. And I got to drive some incredible cars. I would get on my bike and ride it around La Jolla and put flyers on the best cars' windshield, Mercedes and Porsche and Ferraris. I even had a client who had the first Rolls-Royce Corniche convertible.
Wow.
Let me drive that back home, and my mom just about freaked out because that car cost more than our house. So.
But you had a license by then, right?
Oh yeah. By then I was 16. So yeah.
Mark, you were born a car guy, but you had to become a businessman.
Well, I'll tell you what, the paper route was a great start to teaching a young person about business. You had to be responsible, had to get up at 4:00 every morning and have papers on people's doors. Because if you didn't, they'd start calling your house saying, where's my paper? Some of them would, if you were running late because the papers were delivered late, they'd stand out there. But I was a surfer. So for me, it was cool. I could deliver papers. I could come home, eat some breakfast, go surfing, and then go to school. And the school I went to, you could put your surfboard in the gym. There's a place to stack boards. So yeah, pretty idyllic. You could see.
We don't have that in Brooklyn.
No, you don't? Wow.
Hey, Mark, you talk about that $25 and how much money that was. So back in the early 70s, I used to pump gas, and a guy would pull in with a big Cadillac, and it would be like $8 or $10. And we go, man, you must be so rich. That much to fill up your car.
Oh yeah. Well, at times they do a change. That little thing called inflation kicks in. So, but the paper route also teaches you to manage money. You have to go around and collect. There's nothing like knocking on your door and the porch light goes out. But
Life lessons.
I learned a little trick. If I would take my papers, and instead of, the typical paper boy throws the paper, it ends up on the roof or in the garbage or wherever, the lawn. I would lean my papers against my customers' doors. So when they opened their door in the morning, the paper fell in. I made 3 times as much off tips as I did the actual paper route.
Hmm.
So I learned about customer service. I learned about promptness. I learned about collecting. You have to manage your own money. So you have to bring all that money in, get a checking account, pay it was Union Tribune, San Diego Union Tribune, pay them back at the end of the month on time. So you learn a lot of pretty cool things that at the time seem like it's just what you're doing. But when you carry it forward into business, it was a really valuable lesson. And then operating a car care business, same thing. You had to show up on time. You had to be careful with people's cars. You had to deliver them back when you promised you were going to deliver them back. You had to do a good job. And so, it was great. So I guess you could say I've been a bit of an entrepreneur, because even being a paper boy, it's kind of your own business.
But what was your next entrepreneurial automotive experience?
Well, let's see. I went to college where I met my wife, and she was studying engineering. I was studying business and graphic design. And my first job was in the graphic design and advertising field. That's really the career path I was thinking about taking. And I went to work at this company, and very quickly I went into my boss and said, "How do I make more money?" And he said, "Well, bring in business." So 2 days a week, I would put a suit on and I would be an account executive. Now, this is before cell phones or computers. So I'd have to drive downtown San Diego, go into high rises, knock on doors, try to get past the receptionist to talk to somebody to see if they would hire us to do their marketing and advertising for them. And so I went into that business, but I was still doing some car stuff. I was still active in cars, still loved cars. At that time, bought my first Porsche 911, which is my mark of choice. So that was my daily driver. Driving to work every day in San Diego in a convertible Porsche was pretty cool. I went 300 days once without putting the top up. That was kind of fun. So I did that, but I landed an account. We were doing catalog work, and this startup company called Griot's Garage was in North County, San Diego. And Richard Griot had just started his business, and I was on the mailing list to receive the very first mailing. And so I came home, and my wife said, "Hey, here's a neat catalog. You should call them and see if you could do their catalog." And the car that was on the cover was a 72 911S, which later ended up being my car. I ended up owning that car. But I called on them, landed the account, and started doing that work. So we started designing and producing their catalog for them. And then eventually, to fast forward about 2.5 years into it, Richard said, "Hey, why don't you join me and help me build this business?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm part of this other company. At that time, I had some equity. I don't know. You're still a startup. You're really small. There's only like 4 of you here." And he said, "Well, look, I'll give you part of the business. You can earn it through sweat equity." And that's what happened. So I ended up owning part of that business, ended up being there for over 20 years. And so I ended up doing pretty much everything in that business. I was originally hired to be the marketing guy, the merchandising guy, but I wrote copy, photography, traveled the world looking for cool products to bring in and brand, and ended up running the company as the president of the company as we grew the company and built up the car care line. So I learned a lot. I got to travel the world. I got to race vintage cars for 12 years during my time there, and got to own a lot of cool cars and see a lot of neat things. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Learned a lot about business, and worked so hard. I wear so many hats, my hair rubbed off.
How did you get from that to podcasting?
Oh boy. Well, had a very tough year. My wife got very ill and was basically bedridden for some months, couldn't walk. And at the same time, my father had fallen and broken his neck. He was 80 years old at the time. And then Jill, my wife's mother, got cancer. It was a kind of a trifecta of bad things that year. My son was away at college. Thankfully, my daughter had already graduated, so we'd paid to put her through school. So I just had one in college, but it was a very expensive East Coast private school. And so I needed to stay home and take care of my wife because she couldn't walk. And so I was, for the first time, unemployed, wondering, what am I going to do? And my son came home from his first year of college, and we were taking a walk. And I said, I need to figure out something to do that I can do from home. I'm not that techie. I mean, I know computer stuff, but I'm not really that techie with all this thing. And he said, "Dad, you've been taking me to car shows, vintage races, Concours events my whole life. What's the one thing I tease you about?" You can't walk past somebody without talking to them about their car and their business. And I said, yeah. And he said, why don't you do that? I said, well, every time we go to those events, I come home with a Visa bill. They're very expensive. And he said, no. He said, have you ever heard of this thing called a podcast? And this was 8 years ago.
And this is your
I
dad.
said, no. Pardon me?
No,
No,
this is
son.
no,
My
son.
Sorry.
son,
Did I
okay.
say my dad? My son.
No,
My
this is
son.
Maybe he was saying dad. Yeah, whatever. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah,
Dad,
yeah.
yeah. And my son talking to me, Blake.
Yeah.
And I said, a podcast, what is that? He goes, Dad, get with the times. And thank you,
We're
son.
just learning.
Yeah, I'm the dork dad, the old guy. So at any rate, he said, I listen to these things while I'm at school. There's all sorts of podcasts, pretty cool. So I started listening to podcasts, and I came up with this idea for this thing called, there it is, Cars Yeah. I wrote this whole business plan. You know, I don't really do anything little. I go way too deep, way too big. I came up with a logo. I designed my own website. I'd never built a website before, but I'm a good designer. So I designed my logo and all that. And I came up in 3 months with this whole idea of this podcast, wrote the script, started calling people. Everybody I called and told them what I was doing, they went, what are you doing? You should be running a company or something. That's crazy. And even my mom kind of went, are you sure about this? And so, you know, my wife was super supportive. She goes, you know what? If you don't try this, you'll never know. You've helped 2 other people build great businesses, and it's time for you to build your own. Alex?
Mark, why a podcast about inspiring others? Like, what was it about that attracted you to that idea? You know, how did that come about?
That came about from a great book and a TED Talk that I watched by Simon Sinek called Why. And it has to do with defining your why, discovering why you do what you do, and really digging deep into what that means for you. It goes back to some interesting business things that happened to me when I was at Griots and so forth. So I really started thinking about, why do I love cars? What is it about the people and the cars I love so much? And then, of course, answering the question, why do I want to start a podcast? Well, one of the things I've always believed in is that if you give back to others, if that's your true meaning, you supply things for people to make their lives better. We did it at Griots. We supplied great products for your garage and your vehicles, and it made people happy. Then you'll be happy. So in building this business plan for Cars Yeah, the whole thing was, what is my mantra? What is the why that I'm creating Cars Yeah? And it started as a very long paragraph, right? And then I kept narrowing it down, because the idea of that 30-second, 15-second elevator pitch was really ingrained in my head, because I didn't even quite understand a podcast. And so I needed to be able to walk up to somebody and very quickly tell them, Cars Yeah is a 5-day-a-week podcast where I interview inspiring automotive enthusiasts. We inspire automotive enthusiasts by talking to inspiring automotive enthusiasts. We, in hopes, what we're doing is we're inspiring other people to get out of the mundane, boring job they have and go do something in the field they're passionate about, and that is cars. And I'm really proud to say I get letters from people every month saying, thank you, Mark. I listened to a show, and now I'm having fun doing what I love, inspiring other people, because your guests and you inspire me. And that warms my heart.
So it all started with a TED Talk called Why. Correct?
Why? Simon Sinek. Yeah, if you watch Simon Sinek, his Why videos, his book, and I would really say it started with my son Blake saying, Dad, do a podcast.
Do it.
That's where it started. But what is it going to be was the key.
So is your TED Talk going to be called Why Not?
Why not? Why not buy the car you love?
Yeah.
Alex?
So like we said before, I've seen so many of your podcasts. I've seen you evolve from the beginning, because I went right back from the beginning and I watched it. And one of the things I noticed that so early on, you've just been such a great advocate of women in the automotive field. And it really stands out. And back then, people weren't doing that.
No.
You were one of the first, I really have to say, that I've noticed anyway.
Well, thank you. I think that's important. And part of that came from my wife. Jill studied engineering in college. She's super smart. My mom said, marry somebody way smarter than you. Well, I did. I think that was a trick.
I did the same thing.
Me too.
But it is key. It goes back to, we are the culmination of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So you better spend time with really great people who are smarter, better, faster, stronger than you. It's the same with business. Hire people that are better than you at the tasks that you're hiring them to do, and then let them do their job. So in the case of Jill, she studied engineering. When she was studying for her engineering license, she was 8.5 months pregnant with our first child. And so when she went in to take her test, she went in kind of with this big belly, and they were very strict in the state of California. It was a 2-day, 6-hour-a-day test. And the man, when she walked in, you could only bring certain things. She said, "What's that?" Or he said, "What's that?" And she goes, "That's a baby." And so she was the only one in her office that passed. The other guys didn't pass because she studied seismic, like her boss suggested they do. But I saw what Jill had to deal with in her first years at work. It was a challenge because she was in an office full of men, and they didn't treat her equally. And she really had to figure out how to find her place and fit in there and still work with them and not come across as being grumpy or mean or anything. And her boss told her something really wise. He said, "Dazzle them with your brilliance. You're a really smart person." So I've always remembered that and the struggles that she had, and she went on to have a nice career. So when I got into Cars Yeah, I thought, I want to bring all different kind of levels of people to my podcast. I've had people as young as 14, and my oldest guest was Ed Iskandarian, who just celebrated 100 years in life. Yeah, Iski's still with us, and he was 95, I believe, when he was on my show. And when I started having some women on the show, in fact, the first woman on my show was Diane Brandon, a good friend of mine who's the judge at Pebble Beach. She's a Bentley Rolls Royce expert, and I invited her to be, I think it was guest 11 or 12 or something like that. And I got a lot of nice feedback from people and from women. And I thought, well, look, half of the people in this country, in the world, making decisions are women, right?
Of course.
How about all of them are women?
Yeah.
If you're smart. Yeah. And so I did something a few years ago. I dedicated an entire month to women, month of March, because that's International Women's Day. And I got a lot of positive feedback, and I started getting more women wanting to be on the show. So I did it again this year and had 30 women, actually 28 women back to back throughout the month of March. And it just brings a wider variety, a nicer flavor into the show, I think. Yeah. I've had people that are just beginning. Last week, I had a couple of students that were 18 and 19, just getting into the business. Yeah. And sometimes people go, well, do they have anything to say? Well, yeah, they're the future. They're people now, they may not have been as eloquent maybe as some other speakers were, but that's my job as a host, is to help them come through. But I appreciate you noticing that.
Oh, of course.
Speaking of women on your podcast, you just recently had one of our friends on, Jennifer from TechForce.
Yes.
She's been with us several times, and we talk a lot about getting women into the industry.
Jennifer Maher, she's been on the show twice now. I decided last year to pick a charity of choice that Cars Yeah would be dedicated to. And I picked TechForce because I really believe in helping young people come into this industry, or helping young people do anything. I mentor a lot of people. I get a lot of calls from people saying, could you talk to me? I always take time to talk to young people and old people too. And so Jennifer, I had her come back on, but you'll hear when you listen to the Cars Yeah podcast, a TechForce ad. And that's my way of promoting TechForce and bringing them through. They have a new thing called Join TechForce, where you can do this cool online thing. You can sign up. You should go check it out. I think it's jointechforce.org. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well,
Mark, you talk about your son, following you about in the industry, and you talk about the 60s. And my father was big into racing. And do you know where Watkins Glen is?
Oh, yeah, I've raced it.
You've raced it. Okay, so I was very young at the time. And my father took us through the pits. Do you remember the Chaparrals? Roger Penske and Jim Hall raced?
Yeah.
I was about 5 years old, and we were allowed to walk through the pits, and I was introduced to Jim Hall and Roger Penske at about 5 years old.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
Back in the day.
awesome.
Oh.
Yes, that left an impression, huh?
I would say, and
I
an
knew who they were
inspiration.
at the time. I was 5.
Sure.
I knew who Mickey Mantle was more than them. You know.
Well, I remember building models of the Chaparrals and
Yeah.
then the fan car. And when my son was young, I used to take him. I've been to 30 Pebble Beach Concours car weeks, vintage races at the out at Laguna Seca. That's where I got my racing license with Skip Barber Racing School. I also did a 3-day course at Watkins Glen, which was pretty cool. But they had Chaparral one year at the historic races. And Vic Elford, who's been a guest on my show, of course, from Porsche fame, got in the fan car. And I remember being on the pit wall with my son. And I said, do you know what that big box is there? And I explained to him the I think it was snowmobile engines they put in the back of that thing to suck it down to the ground and so forth. So yeah, Chaparrals are cool. I have tried to get Jim on. He's a very shy, reserved person. I've not had any success. Anybody out there can convince him to be a
Jim
guest
Hall?
on my show? Jim Hall. Yeah, I'd love to have
He's
him on
still
the show.
around?
Yeah.
How long did he race for?
I don't know. I'd have to Google that one, as my son would tell me, because he works at Google. Google it, Dad.
Google it.
But, he went on to do a lot too, but it was the innovation that Jim Hall brought to racing. I mean, the wing, nobody was doing that before.
That
It's
was
like,
all
what
Jim
is
Hall,
that?
right?
Yeah. I mean, they're putting that wing above. I mean,
Yeah.
incredible guy. I mean, he just, I think his company's called Rattlesnake or something like that. So yeah, pretty cool guy.
Hey, Mark, your podcast is like the last that I heard was in 80 countries now, something like that.
Yeah, I'm in over 80 countries. There's 37 people in Cambodia that listen to cars. It's kind of fun because when you go and look at I can look at my demographics and people around the world, and you go, wow, there's a few people here and there and a bunch of people here. And it's pretty, I have to kind of almost not think about it sometimes.
Sure.
You start to go, wow, wait a minute. But it's fun. And I do interview a lot of people. I've had a lot of people, Robert, from the UK. Just this week, I interviewed two people from the UK, which is pretty cool. So I'm always across the pond, as I say, over there. But it's fun to have people listening in so many countries. A majority would be in the United States, about 78, 79%. A big chunk would be Canada, and then Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, and then they start to kind of scatter out around the world. So this is the great thing about technology. And if there's something that COVID left behind that's positive, is people now are embracing this concept like what we're doing today, is you can communicate with anybody. So I'll sit here in the mornings and talk to somebody in the UK and think, wow, I just got to talk to that guy. That's pretty cool. Amazing. It's just amazing.
It really is.
It really
I have to
is.
tell you, Mark,
Fantastic.
5 shows a week. We struggle with doing one. It's amazing to me that you're able to do that.
I'm glad you brought it up, Jeff. Here's why I did that. I wanted to build the brand as fast as I could, because that's how I monetize, is through getting listeners and then attracting advertisers to come on board. And I thought, well, if I just do one a week, and there's so much, and now there's so many more podcasts. I mean, there's new podcasts starting all the time. I
Big
thought
point.
I've got to do more than that. I was originally going to do 7. And then I went, well,
You're married. You're married. You can't do stuff.
I'm guessing you have a pretty substantial staff working behind you.
You're
there's
looking at it.
You're
That's
looking
a
at it.
mirror. Yeah.
The
you're
one-man
looking-
band over
Way
there.
to go.
Yeah, I do pretty much everything myself. I do have help with editing shows because that frees up my time to do some of the other things that I do. But this is involved into some interesting things. I did my own television show in 2019. I self-produced a TV show that was on MAV and streamed on Lucas Oil called Cars Yeah, where I did what my podcast does, but I went to people's businesses and kind of took you behind the garage door and showed you people's businesses. And we were on track to do that again in 2020, and then this little pandemic thing kind of destroyed us. So I'm trying to figure out how to bring that back, because the TV industry has radically shifted. So I'm trying to figure out how to bring that back. It's very expensive. And I just had Dennis Gage back on my show. He was an early guest and he just came back on, and he said on my show, he goes, if I was going to do the TV industry now, I wouldn't get in it. It's not any fun.
You know what?
It's-
I'm in the TV industry and I can vouch
Yes.
for that.
yeah, it's yeah. So I don't know if I'm going to be bringing that back. But the other thing that doing what I do, I've been invited to go to car shows. People pay me to go to car shows and be a keynote speaker. So
Nice.
for the first time in my life, I come back from a car event and give my wife a check instead of a pizza bill.
Unbelievable.
That's pretty
Never
cool.
thought that was
Awesome.
going to happen, right? Never
Yeah,
thought that would
I was
happen.
going to do 8 of those last year. Again, COVID kind of
Wow.
killed that. So that'll come back though. I'm not worried about that, but it's fun to get to go and talk to people. Also, I've been hired to help people start their own podcast. So it's not really a primary business, but I've done it for some people. So they hire me my time to get them up to speed faster, to tell them what I've learned so they can get there quicker
Mhm.
and do this faster. Because this is you guys know, this is very technical. And a lot of people think, oh, you just talk into your phone and you could have a show. Yeah, but not a good show.
Yeah.
Right.
It takes time.
Right.
It's all about content.
I
Yeah.
take meticulous care in editing my shows so that my guests sound really good so that they'll share their shows and that will expand my audience.
Yep.
So it takes some time. Yeah, I'm a busy boy.
But luckily, we didn't have to do anything to make you sound really good here.
You're too kind, Mike. I really appreciate that.
True.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Alex.
like I've said, I saw so many of you. I've listened to so many of your podcasts. There was so many good ones. I can't even remember half of them, and I know the stories. One of those podcasts that I really I had to keep listening all the time was the one with Peter Brock.
Oh, Peter, yeah.
That was just incredible. It's an incredible story. I mean, it's just an incredible story. And
Mark,
think that-
fill us in. I'm
Yeah.
dying to know. I'm dying to know. Peter Brock.
Sitting
Well,
on our
Peter,
edge.
I became friends with Peter years ago. He lived up here in the Pacific Northwest. He and his wife, Gail. And so Jill and I became friends with them. And then they moved down to Henderson, Nevada, Las Vegas. And so they just got tired of the wet weather up here. And so Peter's life is really interesting. And when I had him on the show, he's been on a couple of times. I learned some things about him I didn't know, like the hang gliding industry. I mean, he started building hang gliders and
Really?
broke world records for longest flights and highest. Peter, I didn't know
Wow.
you did that. Yeah.
Mhm.
He's quite an incredible guy. The thing that I've heard over and over again from people is, wow, like you had Alexander Sultanis on your show. I had no idea that thing about him. And so people reveal things, and maybe it's
Yeah.
because I try to ask different questions, and my show is a combination of their personal lives and their business. So I bring in a little bit of each, and hopefully by the time we get into the show, they forget they're being recorded and they loosen up a little bit,
Sure.
and then they start telling you stories. So it's pretty cool. I've heard some stories that kind of stopped me in my tracks too. I even
I
cried
bet.
on one of my shows. I lost it. Yeah. Yeah.
Mark, and I know we can't ask you what's your favorite podcast, but can you tell us if there's one where you learned the most unusual thing that you've ever heard on any podcast?
Oh, there's a lot of
There's so
unusual
many.
things that I've learned. A couple stand out. One was Barry Maguire's daughter, Nicole. I had known her for some time, and I'd known a little bit about her history. And I had her on the show, and she revealed on my show that at one point she tried to commit suicide.
Oh my.
And I didn't know that was coming. And
Sure.
when you're doing a show and you think you're talking about the car show that she puts on, and the life of being Barry Maguire's daughter and the car care and all this stuff, and then she reveals this terrible marriage, and she was trying to hide it, and she was so depressed, and she was using drugs and alcohol, and decided this is it. And you I like to say, when you do a podcast that is somewhat scripted, but you never know where it's going to go. I always say this is like Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. I never know what I'm going to get.
You
But it's
can't know what
always-
you ask for, but it's
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
It's a good thing. It always tastes pretty sweet, but she revealed that, and that one set me back. I had another one with a woman who was a driver whose father had murdered her mother.
Oh my.
He was another abusive person. I didn't know she was going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, oh my gosh. Tim Medvets, which ended up being a 2-part show, is the guy that used to build choppers for the stars. He dated Cher, was going to marry her actually. And his show, I don't want to give it away because you've got to listen to it. It went down a
Yeah.
whole nother path that I had no idea was going to happen. And I just let it go because it was so fascinating.
Yeah.
And he has created this whole career around helping veterans who've lost limbs go hiking. And in one case, climb to the top of Mount Everest with a man
Wow.
who had no legs.
Well,
Whoa.
Mark, it's really interesting that two things that you brought up just now, suicide and helping veterans, is what our sponsor, the Gold Shield. You see that Gold Shield behind me?
Absolutely.
That's what we're all about, helping veterans not commit suicide. And we want to fund any group, any charity that will help veterans improve their lives so they don't feel they need to commit suicide. So we're totally unscripted, and you brought those two up. We couldn't have scripted it better.
Kismet.
Well,
Kismet.
I had a couple guests on my show who are men. One of them has a motorcycle touring company that he takes veterans out on motorcycle rides, 1 and 2 day rides. The guys who are the tour guides on these, they use GS BMWs, and they go out and they camp at night, are veterans who've been through PTSD, and they sit around the campfire and they talk. And he's found that by getting veterans who have PTSD, who are having challenges, out on a bike, when you ride a motorcycle, you have to focus. You can't just wander. You got to pay attention, especially when you're on a trail. And so he does that. Another guy who actually started helping veterans come into a shop and build motorcycles. And we found that when these guys were in a shop building a bike, they had to focus and they forgot about some of the challenges they had. And it grew into this huge thing. Mike Rowe ended up doing a TV show about him. So I've had a number of people on my show that are helping veterans. I think it's fantastic.
Last week, we had Peter Klein on, who runs Vets in Motorsports. I don't know if you've had him on yet, but you should.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll
They've
hook
got
you
an
up.
event going on right now, actually, that you guys should take a look at. It looks like a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, vets are so important, first responders to all of us in this country. My father was in the Army. Jill's father was a 35-year Marine. Veterans have a special place in my heart, all of them, and their families, of course, because I know Jill growing up in a family where they were trapped, they had to move every 3 years. That had a profound effect on her and her ability to be stable. And so, it's anytime they're doing that, I think it's great. And Mike, you're going to be on the show to talk about what you're doing too very soon.
All right. So as soon as I can, I will. Thank you for inviting me.
You bet.
And thank you for bringing up two topics that we're focused on here.
Helping
I'm
us
good
with
at,
our-
I'm good at segueing stuff.
Sounds like
You know,
we've got the Howard Stern of podcasting here.
Right. Mark, I just a question. After speaking with so many people, because it fascinates me how cars unite people, and I'm wondering if you've discovered any consistent themes, or any of the magic that is that kernel that connects us all. Has anything come out?
Absolutely. Two big things.
Yeah.
One is that cars are just the catalyst that bring people together. When you go to car events, I mentioned I've been to Pebble Beach 30 years in a row, Car Week.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been 31 last year. And when you go to these car shows, you see people you haven't seen for a year, but they're your friends. And you go, oh, how you doing? How's the Jaguar? How's, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So the cars it's like all these cars and coffees that have become a big thing. Exotics at Redmond Town Center, we have up here in the Pacific Northwest. When I was at Griot's Garage, I created a thing called Caffeine and Gasoline. In fact, we trademarked that when I was there, where it was once a month we would get together and bring people together. It was also a way to bring them into our store to buy products, of course, but it was about the people. So cars are really the catalyst that bring people together. But here's a much more important thing that I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
I have learned through 7.5 years of doing this, the secret sauce, the secret to happiness. I've learned it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You want to know what it
Are
is?
you? Wait a minute.
Roll,
You got
please.
the tape roll. You got the tape rolling there. Ian?
And you're going to give it out for free?
No, you have to call in, and I've got
800.
Mike, come on.
1-800 send me money, and I will give you the secret to a happy life. No, I will give it away because it's a really, really important thing, but it's a theme that's come in over and over and over. And this is it. We as human beings are the most happiest when we are giving back to others.
Mm.
That's the secret sauce to
Completely
life.
agree.
And a lot of people don't figure that out
Yeah.
until later in life. Some people figure it out pretty early. But when you are giving back to others, doing something, doesn't matter what it is, could be big and grandiose if you have a lot of money to donate, a lot of time to donate, a lot of experience to donate, or it could be little things.
Just friendship. A lot
Friendship,
of
helping
friendship
somebody,
with people.
especially during this COVID where a lot of people feeling isolated, they need help.
Yep.
Can I call you and talk to you? But when you give back to people and you don't expect anything from it,
Mhm.
that makes all of us, whether you realize it or not, you'll get off a call, you'll get out of a soup kitchen or making sandwiches or donating something to people that need it, and you feel good.
Yep.
And
Without a
I've heard that from hundreds, if not thousands now of guests
You know
on
what? I'll-
CarJat. That is the secret.
I believe it. And I'll tell you a specific car related. I mean, yes, charity, and it feels wonderful to give. But I remember when I bought my Ferrari 308, the most fun I had was letting people have their first drive in a Ferrari. It was it became more important than the car for me. That I would love to just sit in the passenger seat and give somebody the keys, and I would just watch their face as they would drive.
And
it
you
got
didn't
to a-
even
That
know that.
sounds awesome.
No, I
And you
didn't.
didn't
It got
even
to a-
know that was gonna. You didn't even
No.
know that was gonna
I
happen
had
when you
no
bought it,
idea,
right?
and actually, I'm doing some videos now of like first time Ferrari drive stuff from my YouTube. But
Yeah.
but I remember one time we went to a restaurant, and a friends of ours knew the owner of the restaurant. So we were sitting at the table, and the owner comes by, and we're talking, whatever. And the owner says, "Hey, whose Ferrari is right out front?" I said, "That's mine." He goes, "Man, I always wanted to drive one of those." And I took the keys and I threw it to him. And I don't know this guy. Like, no, and he's like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. And
You freaked
I said,
him
"Well,
out."
just go sit in it, right?" So I go outside and I see him. I come out, he's sitting there, hands on the wheel. He's looking around. I said, "Are you going to drive this thing?" He said, "No, I can't do it. I can't do it." I said, "Look, I don't have a crystal ball, but let me tell you what's going to happen tonight. I'm going to predict the future if you don't drive this car. You're going to be lying in bed saying, I had the keys to a Ferrari and my hands on the wheel, and I didn't take it for a
You
Maybe
wouldn't
he
have
could
had
drive
to
a
ask
stick.
me twice.
He
wouldn't
says,
have
"You
to
don't
ask
know me. You
twice.
don't know me." I said, "I know that you love Ferraris and you deserve this, and your food is great and your restaurant's great. Go drive the car." He took
Very
the car
cool.
around the block. I never saw him again. No.
What is it? Yeah,
He
this
doesn't
guy
forget it.
He
won't
steals a
forget
lot
it.
of cars that way. You know, what is it about Ferrari drivers? I was at the Cavallino event in West Palm Beach, and we were out at the track, Moroso at the time, and I was told to go up and meet a guy who was a childhood friend of a friend of mine who lives here. And I went up and introduced myself, and he had a 250 short wheelbase Ferrari. He's had
Nice.
since college,
Wow.
long time. And I was telling him, he said, I've always loved these cars. This is like a dream fantasy car. I mean, I never will have one. They're just, tens of millions of dollars. And I said, but I'd love to go for a ride. And he looks at me and he goes, I don't give people rides. And I kind of went, gee, that's not very nice. And he goes, but I'll let you drive it. And he threw me the
Well, Mark, on that point about giving back, we have a program, a nationwide program I'm involved in. It's called Wheels to Prosper.
Mm.
And every year we donate a car to a needy person. We fix
Wow.
a car up.
That's
Awesome.
very
I
nice.
have a body shop that helps me out, a transmission shop. We get the car in excellent condition. We donate it to
Yeah.
a needy person who
It
needs
feels
it
so
in our
good.
community.
Yeah.
I think we've done it. I think we've given around 10 or 12 cars.
Yeah, I've seen videos of those, Peyton, and it's absolutely amazing because you bring people together, all these shop owners together, and they all feel great about like really having a positive impact on other people. It's
Yeah, I mentioned that I had a show where I lost it. John Nikas was a guest on my show. He's an author, a journalist. He writes books, and he decided one year to give back, and he bought an old Austin Healey, and he named it Grace. This poor car couldn't get out of its own way, and he decided to go on Facebook and create a Facebook page where he would drive around the country and give kids who have cancer a ride in Grace.
Wow.
And so
Great story.
yeah, I mean, and he was going to do this just for a period of time. It ended up being an entire year. This car, he couldn't even sometimes make it to a city, and he would go on Facebook and people would come to his rescue and tow the car in and fix it and so forth. parents would say, my child's going to die any minute. You got to get here with grace and give this person a ride. That's the show. I lost at the middle of that show.
Yeah.
What a heartwarming story that is.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, I had just lost my dad at the time, so I was somewhat emotional at the time, and
Wow.
and he was telling me the story, and I just like, oh my gosh. And there's another guy here who has a dealership in Gig Harbor, and he does the same thing. There's a prison nearby here, women's prison. So he brings donated cars in, fixes them up, and then gives them to these women who've just gotten out of prison. So they have some way to get around and get to a job and make something of their life again. So again, using cars, I mean, it's great what you're doing, Peyton. These are just little things. Well, there is a big thing when you give somebody a car, help them with a car, but it just helps a person get to that next level that they've got to get to. In the case of John Nikas, I mean, put a smile on a young person's face who's going through a really, really challenging time, not to mention their parents, to see their child smile. It's, yeah,
I mean,
careful.
You know, Mark, Peter Klein said something last week that really rang true to me, and it sounds like part of this conversation. And, you know, the whole is much stronger than the little pieces or the pieces of the whole, you know what I mean? And that's, it sounds like pulling that all together is just in that vein.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's and it doesn't take much. I had another guest on the show who he made a lot of money in tech, and he had all these cars, and he thought, I need to do something with my life to give back. I've been so blessed. And so he started going around and giving kids rides in his exotic cars. And he would get little models and give the kid a model and a shirt as a remembrance. And it grew into a massive charity. And now it's a nationwide charity where people that have nice cars can do this in their cities, bring kids in that have challenges and so forth. So
What's the name of that?
yeah, I knew you were going to ask me. I'm going to have to look it up. Maybe we can put it in there.
Okay.
You know, when
We
you've
can
interviewed over 1,800 people,
1,800.
it
Yeah,
gets a
no,
little
I
hard to
can imagine.
remember all the names. I apologize for that.
We can post that up for you, Mark, on our website.
Mark,
Yeah,
thank you- thank
the
you
other
again.
guy, I'll tell you, the other guy locally in Gig Harbor, I do know his name, Howard Mackert, Mackert Auto. He does car repairs and so forth. That is the other guy, but I'll get you the name of the other person.
Awesome.
Mark, I want to thank you once again for bringing up this topic of helping other people better their lives.
Yeah.
That's the reason all of us here are Gold Shield members, and the reason Gold Shield sponsors this show is because the people that started Gold Shield realized that we are mechanics and we fix things.
Yes.
And the problem of veteran suicide is something that needed to be fixed. So that's why they came to mechanics to get that done. And
Okay, fixed.
this is also Military Appreciation Month, May.
Yes.
So you may want to have some other military car guys on.
Well, it's amazing how many people that have been on my show that are ex-military, you know, that have been pilots or Marines and so forth. The gentleman who's the chief operating officer at Skip Barber Racing School was a Marine for many years.
Ken
And
Gross.
Yep,
Ken
yep.
Gross. He's
Ken
going to be
Gross.
on our show soon. He has a great story also.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people are veterans. They're very quiet about it until you ask, but absolutely. You know, again, my credentials to have the credentials to get on cars, yes, you need to be an inspiring automotive enthusiast. That's pretty much all it is. Some people that have been on my show that don't have a primary business in the automotive sector, but they found a way to integrate it into their life. Maybe they're driving instructors or they put on car shows. I had a lady on the show who, when she and her husband they created a car show where they helped get men testing for prostate cancer. And they've literally saved thousands of lives through a simple blood test at their car show. That men have realized, oh my gosh, I might have prostate cancer. In some cases they do. They would have never known without this test. And her husband ended up dying from prostate cancer. So that's why she put this forward. So she's saved literally probably hundreds and hundreds of lives. So there again, using cars as the catalyst to help people improve their lives. It's a magical thing.
And have fun during the whole process.
Absolutely.
No
Yeah.
better combination than using cars to better people's lives, bring people happiness.
Oh yeah, it's a cool, and cars are so much fun anyway. You know, this picture I have on my wall, I keep going the wrong side here. This picture right here, everything's backwards. This is an artist who, and you'll find him on my website. He's from Russia. He's a car guy and he does paintings. And I invited him to be on my show, but he only speaks Russian. I don't speak Russian, so we didn't quite make that happen. But he took a picture off of my Instagram, which that's me in my car. and sent me this picture from Russia,
Wow.
a painting.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
it's a one-off painting.
It
So
comes back.
Beautiful.
yeah, it's
It
pretty.
comes back.
It's pretty
Well-
cool. Yeah, if you go to my website and click on sponsors, you'll be able to. His name is IV, so you'll be able to get to his Instagram page. He does some beautiful artwork. In fact, all the art in my house is all car art, and it's all past guests that have been on my show. So pretty cool.
And that's despite what your wife said.
She is she's a saint. She puts up with it. She just looks the other. She goes, whatever, that's fine. Yeah. So
Mark,
as long
tell
as my
people
car
how-
starts.
Tell people how people they can find your podcast and all the other great content that you have.
Thanks, Ian. You can find Cars Yeah on the Cars Yeah website, it's carsyeah.com. You can find all the guest shows there. Every show gets their own show notes page with links back to their business. You can also find Cars Yeah on virtually every mobile podcast app that exists out there. I'm on 36 of them now or something. So every mobile device has a podcast app. You just type in Cars Yeah Podcast. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter. I'm on Facebook, both under Mark Green with an E on the end. If you're in Italy, you can call me Greeny. Mark Green or our Cars Yeah. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me through LinkedIn contact. LinkedIn is I'd be remiss not to mention LinkedIn. If you're in any kind of business, LinkedIn far exceeds any other social media way to connect with people. I've found so many great guests through that. And
Yeah.
if you go to my website and click on the free book button and subscribe, I'll send you my free Filler Up book, which is pretty cool. It's an ebook that I created.
I signed up.
Yeah, I appreciate that, David. And you'll also get my weekly recaps of all my guests that have been on the show.
Great.
And I do a blog, but I've been a little bit remiss to get that out there. I need to get back on track with that. But you can find all my old blogs. There's hundreds of them on the Cars
You
Yeah
sound
website.
like you might be a little bit busy. We'll give you a break on that one.
Yeah, just a
Mark,
little bit.
Mark, is there any place we can't find you?
At home.
Right.
In the refrigerator.
Johanna.
Yeah, I don't know. I try to be everywhere, and I'm still learning the social media game, and then they change it every time you do something on it. But if you follow me on social media, it's all about cars. I don't play in the political world. I don't play in any other world. It's just about cars and encouraging people. I just want to make sure that I'm promoting other people, especially my past guests, so other people can learn about them.
And you're doing that well, Mark.
Thanks,
Yep.
Alex.
Great.
Absolutely.
Alex,
Yeah.
Mark, Alex warned me that you are so interesting. There's no way we could keep to our schedule. And he was right.
There's a
Thank
lot
God
to
we're only
talk
on
about.
Facebook now, and we're no longer, and we can do whatever we want to do, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Well, there's a lot to share. And the great thing about talking with so many people is I end up learning an awful lot. So I've gotten so much smarter doing this. I'm coming up on 7 years doing this show, May 28th. It's an anniversary for me. So, and then my next goal is to hit 2,000 shows. And so that's pretty cool. And I will be starting, and if you pay attention to my podcast, you'll learn about it. I'm starting another podcast very soon.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, it's. I'm still supposed to keep it a little bit
Well,
quiet.
I
but if
know
you go,
that.
But if you go and listen to my shows, you'll hear a little teaser about it. So I'll be doing another podcast once a week with a very, very big name in the automotive industry. I'm producing that show, co-hosting that show for a company that if I said their name, you know who they were. So you got to listen to the shows to hear.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
pretty
great.
fun. Pretty fun.
Mark,
Yeah.
Mark,
I'll spill the beans for you, Mark. We won't spill them, we promise.
No,
Okay.
no,
it's just us here.
Yeah.
no.
If you go and listen to my current shows, you'll hear a little spot in there
Okay.
that'll tell you what I'm up to. But they want to announce it big on their platform first, so I'm obviously going to let them do that. But I'm really proud of what that's going to mean, and that'll certainly bring a lot more listeners to me. But it will bring a lot of all my listeners to this company as well. So we're helping each other.
Maybe
And
you should have a
Mark-
contest. Let people guess who is going to be the surprise.
Hey, Mark, I just want to thank you because you've been I guess after 1,200 podcasts I've listened to, I guess you had to say you had some sort of effect on me, but you're an inspiration to me because of what you do for everybody else. And so
Thanks, Alex.
as we talked about before, I can't believe that I'm I'm interviewing you. It's ridiculous. I mean, literally a month and a half ago, I wouldn't have dreamed of even doing this kind of thing on radio. So you got to kind of go with things, right?
Well, I do that every day. When I'm on the phone with people, I do that every day. I was just on the phone with this guy. Just did a show. It's not come up with Mr. Le Mans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Tom Christensen, he has won more Le Mans races than anyone, 9. He's raced there 18 times. He's been on the podium every time. He's run 9 races. He's from England. He's got this huge new book. And hope you love me, Tom, for doing this for you. And I just interviewed him. And, I was sitting there interviewing this guy, talking about his life racing Le Mans. Now, if you're a racer, and I raced for 12 years, but I raced vintage cars, but the idea of racing Le Mans is like the king of the king of the king, right? Endurance racing.
Yeah.
And I get off the phone and I'm like, I just spent an hour with Tom Christensen talking to them about his life. I mean, I'm so fortunate because I get off the phone with these people and I go, pinch me. I can't believe it. And some of these people are my heroes, Peter Brock, Vic Elford, and these people I've known about my whole life. Ed Iskandarian, Iski Cams, my gosh. And so, and I've had a fair number of celebrities on the show, which is pretty cool to have celebrities on the show and go, wow, now the one I've not gotten, and I want to get him so bad, is Jay.
I knew you were going to say that.
I was going to say that.
I
Guess who we
help you
want?
with that.
Keep it up. You'll get him. He'll be calling you one day.
Oh, well, that'd be something. And not like he needs me at all, but I've actually walked up to him 4 times at Concours events, given him my card. He's always super nice guy, but he's super busy. And so maybe one day I'll find a way to get him to pick up the phone.
You might
Jay,
have one.
Jay, if you're listening, call me.
I might be able to facilitate. Let's see.
Well, you'd be my hero because I call him my snipe. He's the guy that I've been trying to get forever and ever, but maybe someday, Yeah, he's look, he's a busy guy and he does a lot of his own stuff, and I get that, but that would be pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I'll tell you this: the thing that's great about Jay is that, like he's my friend, my Jay. The thing that's great about Jay Leno is that he will roll up his sleeves and get his hands dirty and work on these cars. He's, he's a car owner, not just a car collector. There are people that are just collectors.
He says he's not a collector. He just never sells anything.
He doesn't sell. That's true. That's true.
My favorite line from Jay Leno is, I buy 100-point cars, I drive them down to 50 points and restore them back to 100. And so, he gets out there and drives. He enjoys his cars, and obviously he's got the wealth to do it. So that's even cooler. But what's better is, because there's a lot of wealthy people with cars and they don't share them. They hide them away. They don't bring them out.
Yeah.
Jay shares his cars. He gets out there, and I've watched him go through Concours events and car shows. I don't know how he gets through them, because everyone wants a piece of him. And, he's trying to see the cars, but he's always been very gracious. He's always stopped and said hello to me, got the selfie, so maybe one of these days I'll be able to land him on the jet. Yeah,
the car guys.
I've got the faith, but it's just fun to talk to cool people. I mean, I got to spend some time with you guys this afternoon. How lucky am I? So it's really fun. Yeah. So do what you love, because then it doesn't feel like work, right?
Absolutely.
It's great to have you on.
Yeah. Well, it's been really fun. I mean, this is pretty cool. And so now, I've got my afternoon is I'm shooting some videos for one of my longtime first advertisers, Covercraft. And so I've been shooting some videos this afternoon for them. I do a little video series on YouTube for them called Car Care Tips with Mark Green, which is kind of fun. So I get to go out and play in my garage some more.
I think we could. I don't know about you guys, but I could sit here all night tonight just talking to Mark.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm at your beck and call. I mean, any other thoughts you guys have or questions for me that pop into your head?
We're literally working right now on a path that is similar, not similar, but maybe similar to what you've done. So I mean, we could ask 1,000 questions. So
what is it that you're doing?
Well, we're a bunch of car mechanics, and we're just trying to, and we love to talk about cars. We like to help people. The show's been on radio, New York radio, for over 30 years, and it was a public service, and people would call us and ask questions, and we'd like to bring on interesting people and share, like Robert would share stuff about the automotive industry in Europe and the international world. And, you know, it's just, we're learning that, you know, the future in broadcasting is really, as you say, in all these different platforms, and we're just learning about it, you know, and it's been very exciting to bring kind of our format and kind of expand on it and learn. And it really is a public service. It's about sharing.
In other words, we're trying to catch up with you, Mark.
Well, I don't know
if we'll ever
about that,
catch
but
up.
here's the deal. We are living in an incredible time right now for anyone who has a message to share. This has never happened in the history of mankind, that anybody, virtually anybody with one of these little devices can create anything and put it out there and offer it to the world. You can create, and you do it for free. I mean, YouTube, Facebook, Facebook Live, Instagram Live. You can create a podcast for relatively inexpensive. I mean, my operating ratio is like 94%. Don't tell anybody.
You all operate that way if we could, right?
Well, there's very little cost. Now, I don't add my time in there, of course, but just the physical nature of what I do. You buy a nice mic, you have a computer, some and then you go in and you can go on YouTube. That's how I learned how to do podcasting, is YouTube. How do you build a website? YouTube. And I built my own website. How do you record on Adobe Audition? YouTube. How do you, I mean, I even bought all my gear on eBay from someone who wanted to be a podcaster, but then found out it was too much work. So I bought all the gear for half price. So, so we can do anything right now. You can create blogs. I mean, you can create packages for you guys. You can create programs that you can sell, programs for people who can go and learn how to work on their vehicles. This is an incredible time if you're willing to put in the work and effort and seek help. And there's so many people out there that you can seek help from, that you can go and ask and watch. And this has never happened before. And I always say, man, if you have a message to share, figure out a way to do it and share it, even if it's a side hustle or it's a weekend thing or an evening thing, because you never know what it will end up doing. I mean, when I started this, I gave myself 6 to 12 months. And I said, if I can't make at least $10 in 6 months,
$10,
and this is probably a bad idea, I got to go get a real job. Right. And I remember my first advertiser, I literally almost cried in my driveway when I opened the envelope and there was that check.
Oh my God, we felt that recently also. That's so funny.
Mark,
I
started a YouTube channel. I love Porsche 914s, and I do a lot of work.
I used to have one of those.
Oh, great. That's cool.
Yeah.
I started doing YouTube videos about how to work on 914s, and suddenly, same kind of thing, very organically, suddenly I have 1,000 subscribers. Suddenly I have like 40,000 hours of views. Suddenly I'm monetized on YouTube. Never set out to do that.
Right.
I just wanted to kind of, for me, it was sharing the joy of wrenching, the therapy of wrenching with people. And then in the community, as you know, as a 914 owner, the community is really tight. So now it's amazing. Every day I'm getting emails from people and stuff. It's great. So you're absolutely right about that.
It's fun. And you can do it with any hobby. If you're into chickens, you can start a chicken podcast.
YouTube is powerful. YouTube is so powerful. I mean, it's the second largest search engine in the world.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in the regular construction world for a little while, I got out of the automotive industry. Somebody called me on the phone and says, I need to build a wine cellar. Can you do that? I was like, absolutely. And I was Googling wine cellars on YouTube and watched the process and went and did it. So, what you're saying just really rings home.
Well, I'll tell you a quick funny story. My son, when he started driving, we bought him a used 328 Ci BMW. And he was a great car for first. Ian, I bought him that 914, a 73 2.0.
I was going to ask what it was. What color?
It was blue. It was that beautiful
Olympic blue.
Olympic blue.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, Wally, had restored the car. It was a really nice car. And I brought it home and, my wife said, another Porsche. And I said, well, this would be a great car for Blake. And she looked at it and went, what? Because I don't see any airbags and that car is really tiny. And my kids had to commute a ways to get to their school when they started driving. And she goes, I don't think this is a very good idea. So we ended up, he and I did a little bit of work. We flipped it, made some money.
Great.
And we bought him this BMW. Well, he was got home one night and he said, Dad, my blinker is doing something funny. When I turn my blinker on, it's like, and I go, oh, the bulb's out. He goes, oh, cool. And I said, father-son bonding. Let's go to the garage, son, and change the bulb. So we walk out to the bulb. We open up. Now this was an E46. I've had an E46 M3 for a long time. I've had 4 M3s, 2 E36s, 2 E46s. And I opened it up and I looked down and I'm like, oh, how do you get the
How do you get
And I'm standing there and I'm talking, like trying to be the authoritative one. Blake's kind of behind me, and then he reaches around and he goes, Dad, watch this. And he shows me a YouTube video how to put the screwdriver into the little hole and click out, and the whole thing comes up.
It's amazing what's out there.
Thank you, son.
Want to know.
Anything you want to know. I mean, you could probably learn how to extract your own tooth on YouTube. If you wanted to do that.
Self-taught brain surgery is next.
A lot of people might need that.
Mark, I know you said you
That's
have
the
to
way.
go. I know you said you have to go make a video. We could keep you here all day, but that would be too selfish. But we have to ask you to come back soon.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
happy to.
Can you guys believe a whole hour just went by? An hour and 10 minutes?
Well, it's been a
I feel like
pleasure,
a
Mark.
minute.
Really,
No, I
really
tell you-
appreciate it.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate that. And when I do shows with people, that's what I hear all the time. It's at the end, they go, oh, we're done. And
Right.
many of the people that come on my show are rather nervous about the concept of being interviewed because they've never done it, and being recorded kind of scares them. But once you kind of put people at ease and start talking about what they love, they forget about it. And at the end, I've had people say, can we just keep talking?
Yeah.
we're
Okay.
just a bunch of car guys chatting, right?
Yeah. So no,
Exactly.
I'm appreciative of your time. I'm happy to come back anytime and share whatever little bits of knowledge that I might be able to share with you guys.
We've all learned a lot.
in
We've
the
all learned
For
a
the
lot.
inspiration, Mark. That was
Thanks.
a lot of
Oh,
inspiration.
Thanks a lot for what you do, and thanks especially for bringing up our mission on the Gold Shield.
yeah.
Even though it wasn't intended, but somehow, some way,
It was
Well,
meant to be.
I'll give you a
it was
little
meant
secret.
to be. Yes.
I'll give you a secret, Mike. You and I had a little talk before on the phone, so I found a way to kind of
It's a big seguer.
nice segue. But
I told you he was good. I told you.
yeah, but I tell you guys, again, reach out to me. My email's easymark@carsyeah.com. You can find me. Robert, appreciate you being up so late in the evening, because mostly when I'm with my friends in the UK, it's my morning, their evening. But you're up a little late right now.
Ooh,
Mark,
boy, yeah.
So-
Mark, I have to
I
tell you
am-
before you go that Robert Erskine is a very interesting car guy.
Yeah, you
Well,
You might want to talk to him.
Yeah.
Again, I want to say that I think I've got a lot of interesting car guys here. So I'm going to extend an invitation to all of you. If you think it might be a great fit, send me an email. I'll send you what's called my conversation flow, which outlines how I do my show, so you can see what I'll be asking you. Open invitation to all of you if
Oh,
you'd like to be a
awesome.
guest on
Wow.
Cars Yeah.
Thank you.
wow, wow, wow.
Check your email. I sent you one today. I don't know if you opened it yet.
Good. Yeah. Because,
Okay.
I want to share your stories with my listeners. And for
Awesome.
those folks that listen all the time, I get emails all the time going, wow, that was a great show. I didn't know that. Or that was something really cool. I mean, every guest isn't going to be a grand guest for everyone, but there's going to be stories and little bits and golden nuggets, as I like to say,
Yeah.
those golden nugget bombs that are dropped, value bombs that we can share. So I want to extend that invitation to all of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you
That's
very much.
excellent. This is
Yeah.
just
Let
like
Robert
this is
ask
just
his,
like
Robert
being-
had a question, guys. Let Robert ask
No,
his question.
I was just going to say to Mark that I'm actually a paper cutout.
Oh, you are.
I'm an automaton. The real Robert Erskine is fast asleep in his bed.
Fast asleep. Well, you're doing a good job. You're a very high quality paper. You have those jib
I've never
jab
seen you
things,
this late, Robert.
the mouse that go on. But
Guys,
hopefully we've made it fun for you, Robert.
This is
It's
just like being at
absolutely
a car
infectious
show.
and wonderful.
Thanks.
This is just like being at a car show. We can't stop talking to each other.
Yeah, no, that's the great thing about cars. I mean, it's just my poor. That's why my wife doesn't go to car shows with me, because she just goes, see you later. Bye.
Your wife's podcast is Cars Nah.
It's like the AAA for wives of car guys, spouses of car.
Recovery.
Yeah, no, she's always been really good and super supportive of me, and I'm very grateful. She's kept me around for 36 years. So I
God
guess I'm
bless.
doing something right, but yeah, she just kind of says, "Go off, have fun, see you later, bye." And I took her to Pebble once, and after the day one, she goes, "Well, what are we doing the next 3 days?" And I said, "Same thing." So I ask her every year. In fact, her birthday is August 13th. I've missed her birthday for 30 years. In a
Oh
row.
my.
Oh my God.
Boy,
Yeah,
she's
but here-
something.
Wow, she
But
is
really
dedicated.
is.
She always says, "Don't worry about it." But here's a little secret. Well, I've given away a little bit of my show. I might miss Pebble this year.
Hmm.
Now, Alex, do you know why? Since you're a pretty steady listener, have you heard me mention why?
I think I may. Go ahead, say it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Say it.
My daughter told us she's having her first baby.
Oh,
that's what I thought.
congratulations.
So I'm going to be a grandpa for the
Yeah.
first
All
time.
right.
There's a
All
good
right.
reason to miss Pebble.
And then she
Yes.
said, "Dad, I have a problem. The baby's due August 9th." And I
Yeah.
said, "That's the first day of car week. Can't you like squirt it out quicker?"
Ah.
I remember that story.
Mark, there's a simple solution. Bring her to Pebble.
Right. Yeah.
There's a good
A woman
maternity
who's,
ward in Monterey.
9 months pregnant. Yeah, that probably wouldn't work, but wouldn't
Don't
want to
push
be on
it.
that airplane.
Don't push her. She's doing good already.
Don't
by
push.
now.
Yeah, don't push. Don't push. That's exactly right. But
So you
so
get to the hospital.
I might miss it this year if the baby's not born by then. I already have everything booked. I'm going to go, but if the baby hasn't arrived by then, I'll be staying home. But that's okay. I'm not going to miss that one. That's a show I don't want to miss. But
yeah.
this will be the baby's. There it is again. This will be the new baby's ride.
Yeah.
Mark, thanks again for coming. And we're going to have you back real soon.
Thank you,
Thank you,
for
Mark.
all
Thank
your
you.
time.
Look out
Thank
for
you so
you.
much, Mark, for everything.
And
Really
everybody,
appreciate it.
everybody here, shoot me an email so I have your contact.
Sure,
Mark
we
at
will.
carsyeah.com. And again, my invitation is genuine. Love to have you on the
Great.
show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks again so much.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Bye-bye.
Get to bed, Robert. It's late.
Yeah, he can. He's got a show to do.
We'll hear a word
just
from the
about to
Gold
start
Shield.
work.
Yeah.
We'll hear a word from
That's
the Gold
okay.
Shield, and then Robert will be right back right after this.
All right. Okay.
Gold
I'll see you
Shield
guys.
is an
Thank you.
Take care, Mark.
Yeah.
Bye.
both large and small, that have pledged to putting an end to the national disgrace which is veteran suicide, and also to expedite research and treatments for various cancers. When you choose to shop Gold Shield, you'll be making a direct impact in the lives of veterans and their families, as well as people who suffer from cancer. Whether it's at your grocer, your barber, your insurance professional, your internet provider, gas station, or even your favorite coffee shop, you can be sure that every veteran and cancer victim in their darkest hour will be well cared for. Please shop Gold Shield and be assured that funds will go towards those who need it the most. We bury our loved ones every day, and we can't wait any longer. So please shop Gold Shield, the simple truth, which supports cutting-edge treatment for veteran suicide prevention and expediting cancer research.
Welcome back, Autolab listeners. This is Mike Porcelli here in the Gold Shield headquarters. Gold Shield, we just heard from. We're working to save the lives of veterans every day. I'm here with Alexander Sultanis, Peyton Knight, David Goldsmith, Jerry and Johanna Pastori, Jeff Alon, Robert Erskine. And coming up, we have a very special guest, Dr. Chris. Dr. Chris.
Emsky.
Dr. Chris Kamsky. Hey, Mike, that's fine.
Dr. Chris. I know you as Dr. Chris. I forget. All right. Dr. Chris is a very interesting guy. Dr. Chris is a car guy and therapist. He's all kinds of therapy that he does. But Chris, tell everybody how you became a car guy. How long have you been a car guy?
So, Mike, I've been a car guy since I was probably around like 6, 7 years old. I had tons of Matchbox cars. I built cars from models when I was a kid. My father had, a lot of hot rods when I was younger. He got rid of them when I was a little older, but that I used to watch him when he was working on the motors, slipping in, gear differentials, working on the interiors. And I always had a love for cars. And from then I always did. I was working on bikes. I was working on motorcycles. That was my love. So that's what really got me started to really be a car guy from day one. So
I know you had a really bad car experience that led you to become a therapist. Tell our listeners about that.
Yes, I did. Unfortunately, from my love of being a car guy and working on hot rods and Grand Nationals and Monte Carlos and Corvettes, when I was 19 years old, I got into a very bad automobile accident. I actually had an LT1 Corvette convertible, and I got to a bad car accident where I wound up flipping the car. And it wasn't due to anything that was bad on my part. It was due to black ice. And the black ice and street lights out, it caused me to have very wrong place, wrong time, and to have severely bad problems afterwards. I was in a coma for 6 weeks. I was hospitalized, including rehab, for a year and a half, inpatient, to learn how to walk again, learn how to function again. And that's what led me to become the therapist I am. I was actually in school for mechanical engineering at that time, in the Merchant Marine Academy, Maritime Academy. And it changed my life. It really did. It made me go into more of a holistic side of things, into health. But my love for cars never was lost. Once I was able to get back into driving and doing things, I actually got back in behind the car and got my love for sports cars, and got a BMW M3, which was the beginning of my my love again to start. So
fantastic.
And what kind of cars are you into these days?
Well, these days I had I love Porsches. I had a 996 turbo, twin turbo. I have a Buick Grand National GNX, which I still have, and I held that as my love. I had BMW M3s. I had Audi S4s. I love turbos, but I love the real, working on the real muscle. And that's where my GNX comes into play. It's a turbo, but it's still muscle. It's a muscle car compared to some of the, M3s, S4s, all these other cars. They're European. Europeans a little different. Still love my Europeans, but muscle cars is the American muscle way of America.
You still work on them yourself?
I still work on them myself. I did a lot of work on my GNX, my Grand National GNX, and that's a motor that you can work on still. The new cars now, when you work on them, there's no room. There's no room anymore. So the older cars with the small big blocks or the big blocks, you have room to work on. Yeah. Now they're all tightly knit and compact.
Now you need a laptop.
You need a laptop, and also download software you have to put in. And I think I believe maybe not my year of the Grand National, the GNX, they started using. Putting in the computers, the things. I mean, I have
the
my,
prompts.
The prompts, EPROMs. And I have all technical, logical stuff in the car that I was added to it to make it more, where it controls the motor, it controls the coolant, controls the airflow. And all that together, you can control it in one unit. So those are some of the updates I did add to the car. But that's the way of making sure that, because if the car knocks out and you're getting knocked on the car and you're revving that thing out, you're not going to really know on the old cars. But on the new cars where they have all those gauges and stuff, it really helps if you're a car guy.
There's a lot of great things, by the way, you can do to that transmission, that GNX unit. Back in the day, we had a client, the FBI we used to do work for. They had a whole fleet of Buick Grand Nationals. And we used to get a different one in every day. And those cars are, for a 6-cylinder turbo, I mean, those cars are unusually fast.
They really are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things we could do to that tranny for you if you need it.
Oh, I know. And listen, Jeff, I'll be in touch. But actually, when I was doing the motor on the car a little bit, because I did upgrade a little bit, I did do some training work, and I put some lower end gears in there and stuff like that when they did it, because I wanted to get in the car used. I had to do a whole, uptake on it and kind of refresh everything. And that was one thing that I did. I did that to make sure that the gear ratios would be a little more have more torque in it than it would. So thank
They
you.
sell-
I definitely
They
will
sell
be in
what you
touch.
call a bulletproof package for that
Oh, really?
transmission
All right.
because it stemmed from the original Metric 200 trans,
Yeah.
which
yeah.
is not the best of General Motors designs.
Mhm.
And a friend of mine actually builds those units down in Florida for that whole. There's a whole race clique of those guys down in Florida. They
I
race
know.
them
They're big.
every weekend.
cool
The
cars.
G bodies.
Yeah.
All the G bodies, whatever G bodies, if it's the Pontiacs, if it's the, if you have the Monte Carlos, if you
Yep.
have the Grand Nationals, the Regals, those are all G bodies. The G bodies are classic cars. Now they're coming up. So they're really good.
They're worth some money for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So, Chris, you have some good taste in rides.
Thank you. Thank you. But I still love my Porsches. I love my twin turbos. I love my Porsche 911s, 996s, 930 roughs, everything. I'm still that guy. So
David.
Yeah, so Chris, I find your passion for cars and passion, fixing cars, but you're also you're into helping to fix people, which is
He's a car mechanic and a people mechanic.
Well,
Wow.
ironically enough, you know what I say? Because I do have a degree in biomechanics. I said I am a biomechanic. So that's the name. People call me Dr. Biomechanic. They call me Dr. Chris. But really looking at it, it's all based on the body is the mechanics of how you walk, how you live, how you function. So, kinesiology, biomechanics, that's our, it's our bones, it's our muscles, the same thing. What does a car have? It has pistons, it has gears, it has, headers, everything. That's the same thing. So our body is a motor, just like a motor to a car is the same thing. We have it. So we look at ourselves like that. And I work with people, a lot of people who have gone through automobile accidents. And so I help them not only from my relearning how to walk again and function again. I help people now to do better. So that's where my love for biomechanics and getting after my car accident, saying I have to give back, and that was the thing. I was given a second chance in life, so I look at that.
Mark was just talking
I love
about,
the
yeah.
cars and even motorcycles. I was a hot rodder. I used to, the things I used to do, but I kind of calmed down a little bit. But back in my old age now, I'm still, I'm still like to, go on the track if I have to stuff. I'm going out to years ago.
Chris, tell us how you make cars fit people.
Okay, I also am an ergonomist, and I actually was reached out to by Ford Lincoln Motor Company for their Continental seat design. And as an ergonomist, they came in, because I'm a very well-known ergonomist, to design and inspect and study and do sort of a work of determining if it's functionable for the car and functional for people. So function is the most important thing. We all function, but function first. So when we're in a car, not all seats are comfortable. Not all seats give us the protection we need to. Ironically enough, my Corvette at that time had ASR, which was a way of having anti-slip differential on the car, but the car still slipped on the ice. Didn't matter. But the seats were not designed properly. They didn't give a lot of stuff for people to feel that they were safe into. Now the seats are more safe. They have more components to where it kind of fits the person. But as an ergonomist, we look at fitting the person to their environment. So fitting the person to the workplace, fitting the person to their home life, fitting a person to their car. And that's why Lincoln Ford Motor Company reached out to me to help design the new Lincoln Continental seat. It is a spa-like seat in a way, and I did that. I came up with that term that was used with a designer that I worked with in the project, and he liked it because having that spa-like effect to it gave people a sense of comfort, relaxation, and safety. It had multi-faceted controls to it. It was able to adjust to the person, including their back, their legs, everything, because not only function in driving a car and being comfortable to drive, but also safety. When someone doesn't fit properly in a seat, that seat is dangerous for them. Why do we have children put in boosters? Primarily because we need to have them be safe, and that's really important. So that's part of what we need to do. So as an ergonomist, the seats come first, but also looking at the whole car itself, how we're going to include them into doing things in safety in the car, maybe the dashboard, the center console, everything is fitting it to the person. So, but seat safety first, function first.
Chris, thanks a lot for coming on. This is all very interesting, but you need to come back another time and tell us.
Oh yes, I have so much more to give and add. I mean,
tell us how people can better survive car accidents.
Oh yes, people can better survive a number of ways. They can make sure that they're properly fit for the automobile. A lot of times, if you see people in cars, this is my pet peeve, is that you see people, big people in small cars, where they're like this, they can't see, you know, they're too high in the car, then maybe not be able to even see the whole, what's in front of them. So
we're gonna have you back. We're gonna have you back real soon, so you can tell everybody. Tell everybody how to drive properly, how to fit in the car properly. Okay. Thanks a lot for coming.
Sounds good. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Look forward to it.
Thanks.
Great show.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
Doctor.
I believe we have some gear news coming up, don't we, Ian?
We do have some gear news coming up, but first I think we should probably play Jeff's commercial.
New York Transmission Group is a team of automotive and transmission experts. Utilizing a combined 100 years of experience, our professionals from Reliable Transmissions and Lee Miles have merged to better serve the 5 boroughs and surrounding areas. With a new leader, a new location, and a new brand, New York Transmission Group is ready to offer updated superior customer service paired with our established quality repairs. Visit us in College Point, Queens, or at nytransmissiongroup.com.
Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here today. And Mike, thank you so much. Alex, thank you so much for bringing those great guests on. Mark from Cars. Yeah, wow. I have to tell you, I was blown away by this guy's message. And that brings me over to what I wanted to talk about today, which is this 97 Camaro, SS Camaro that came in the 30th anniversary. It came in, I picked the car up from Great Neck, and I'm driving this car to the shop, and it only has 55,000 miles on it. It's the white car with the orange stripes, that like classic vehicle. And you know, the vehicle went down prematurely because the transmission was never serviced. That's what blows my mind. The guy told me, you know, I never changed the fluid, anything. 97, we're talking 25 years, the fluid was in that unit, and it went bad. So we ended up rebuilding the tranny, and on the way back, I took the highway because it actually had 3rd and 4th gears. And driving that car with the way it sounded, I just couldn't help myself. I got on the LIE, and I punched the Chewy. And before I knew it, I was doing about 110 miles an hour. And I said to myself, Jeff, you got to do automatic. Stop it. So, I have to tell you, though, you know, talking about how that brought me back to my youth. I mean, it wasn't, you know, I was still a 30-year-old man when those cars came out, but I am blown away by how great that car drove, what it sounded like, and how it made me feel like I was 30 years old again. and it was just an awesome experience this week, you know, and everything that Mark was saying, you know, rang true to that experience that I had. Like, and then I was talking to my buddy, we owned a 69 Z28 together, and I'm talking to him. He followed me actually back to drop the car off, and I was talking to him about the 69 and how we got to get this thing together now, you know. And it was just also brings me back to
sounds like you like horsepower therapy.
I'm a big Chevy guy. I'm a big Chevy guy. I have to tell you.
Wrench and horsepower therapy.
David, you know that what that reminded me of was when I first met David from Urban Classics on Gold Street in Brooklyn. If you remember that. David used to have every and any kind
David was on the street that they named after him.
Yeah, that's right, David?
I picked that street. Name before me.
Right.
He was building a 55 Buick Roadmaster convertible. And listen to this, guys. He had a table that was about 100 feet long, and every piece of
We took the car apart and put it back together again.
every piece of chrome was lined up for 100 feet, and everyone was on an index chart, and it was like, okay, this one's been polished, put it back on.
I don't know
was
how
on
it
a
ended up
rotisserie.
with. I don't know how it ended up with two left fenders. I'm still trying to figure that one out. What happened? Oh man!
All right,
Thanks.
Yeah, it was
You know,
an awesome experience. Anyway,
guys,
hope everybody had
we,
as great a
yeah.
time as I did.
Jeff, we're all jealous.
Now we got somebody else. That's a familiar sound.
No,
I know who's coming on.
no, I decided to play that for Robert this week.
Oh, he's
Robert.
okay.
I decided to play it as a special intro for Mr. Erskine.
Put your
Keep him
cowboy hat
awake.
on.
Take it away. Yeah, put your cowboy.
Take
hat
it
on.
away.
Yeah.
Before I nod off and get into my pajamas, ladies and gentlemen.
A little extra
can't wait.
caffeine today. A little extra caffeine. This
What's
evening.
happening
in
across the
Cromwell. You
pond,
can
Robert?
start in
Well-
in your pajamas.
The news from Europe before everyone gets into their jolly old pajamas is we're talking about tires, and very, very, very briefly, there is a certain company called Kumo Tires. I'm sure that you've heard of them. They're very innovative. They make all sorts of interesting tires, every shape, and they're round, and they're colored black, and they keep you onto the road. But in all seriousness, it was announced this week that Kumo have won two very prestigious prizes at the European Center for Design Excellence, which is known as the Red Dot Design Museum in Essen, Germany, which I visited for a smart reveal, which is another story. And this is where companies and designers and all sorts of manufacturers get their products reviewed. And if they're up to the mark, they get an award. Well, Kumo have been awarded two prizes for two very exceptional tires. And if you can get your head around this, those of you who are in Britain and still awake, the first tire product is called the E-Nymph. That's E-NIMF. This
Nymph.
means eco-friendly, no inflation, and maintenance-free tire.
It sounds
Now,
like a
that's
Monty
quite
Python name.
mouthful. It's a Monty Python tire, yes.
It's E-Nymph.
Yes. Hello, can I please have 4 E-Nymphs for my car? This
We are no
is
longer
a
the knights who say
non-pneumatic tire. This is unlike conventional equivalents, so says the press release that I've been reading, that will not suffer from the periodic catastrophic deflation, meaning a puncture. And it means that this particular tire, which everybody will probably want to go and buy, will allow you to drive in comfort and never ever know what it means to have a nail stuck in your tire and have to be rescued. Now, this particular tire also has a certain aesthetic, and I'm using words here that Kumo have especially sent me. The aesthetic is that the top of the tire is constructed of numerous spokes. So if you can imagine a tire, and the top bit, the 4 inches, which would normally be where the tread goes, is not there. It's made up of multiple vertical spokes, which you can have colored. This is another feature. You can choose any color you like. And attached to the top of the spokes is the actual tread. And the idea is that as you use your vehicle and the tire tread starts to wear, when it gets to a certain point, this particular part is removed. And the press release doesn't say what happens next, but it is replaced. You don't have
Retread.
to change the tire.
Retread.
It's a kind of a retread, a 3D printed retread.
Get
system.
out.
Wow.
Yeah, what do you
They're
think of that?
back.
Isn't
Wow.
that fantastic?
Yeah.
The only thing I
Amazing.
can think, Robert, the only thing I can think of is why did you pick tires to work? Because you're tired? Is that what?
No, it's really important that we know that tire construction and tire technology is moving. It's moving as we are moving into the realms of electrification. And this is really what this is all about. Because we now come on to the second product, which is called E-Tops. This is the revolutionary, eco-friendly, topology optimized and punctureless tire. Great mouthful. I don't think anyone's going to go in and say, can I please have a eco-friendly topology optimized punctureless tire, please? Do you have it in my size?
So
this basically, ladies and gentlemen, is a hybrid tire that's used potentially for exclusive use on autonomous cars.
So
Robert,
This is
Robert,
what's
these
going on here in Europe.
these airless tires are going to be very important for us in New York City, where the biggest problem we have with cars, I think, is flat tires.
Yeah,
well, not if you own a flat tire shop.
It was Charles Goodyear, wasn't it, in 1839, who found the composition of rubber compound. And hey presto, here we are, 2021, talking about his particular product, which has now jumped forward into all this fantastic stuff. The question is, very quickly, is this realistic? Is this really going to happen? Because the current technology that we have today is very suitable. Not very many cars have that many punctures, actually.
Oh, come on. You haven't been to Brooklyn.
And in Britain, we don't have punctures.
No.
But I will say this, the run flats, I really dislike the run flat tires. I mean, the concept of it, I get, but overall, the concept basically is I'm going to have a lousy ride for 99.9% of the time, so that the 1% of the time I have a puncture or something like that, I can drive to it.
And you can't really fix it. You have to get a new one.
And they also cost $400.
Yes.
It's
I didn't realize
amount of
that.
money.
I didn't realize they actually have a bad ride, though.
So Robert,
they are hard as a rock.
But these are not run.
You don't think they have a bad ride, Alex?
No, I didn't know that the run. I knew about the run flats, but I didn't know that they had a bad ride. I didn't know that went.
They're noisy, like really loud, and the
You
more
don't want
drive
you don't
them,
want to
the
ride
louder they
you don't
get.
want to ride to Amelia Island on them.
No, they're really noisy.
So Robert,
and not sticky.
So Robert, what are these tires filled with if they're not filled with air?
Well,
Those
this
little
is
spokes.
well, yeah. You may or may not remember, but about 3 or 4 years ago, I featured Michelin's tires.
I remember that. I remember you on
this
that show.
was
Yeah.
based on the design of our own bones, our own skeleton. Those of you who bother to follow biology at high school, you will know that the inside of a bone, if you cut through it,
hollow.
is a honeycomb. It's a honeycomb
It's
structure.
a honeycomb, right.
So Michelin applied nature's best bit of engineering to their tire, and their tire is composed of what a honeycomb inside a human bone looks like.
This is what you call, guys, and gals, the distance learning classroom. They're learning so much.
Biology,
Long
nature,
distance.
We're learning all of
engineer's best resource.
It's
So
amazing.
the answer to the question is, are these really airless tires? Yes, they are. So they will run on a supportive structure of some kind, which of course Kumo didn't really explain in too much detail, but I suspect looking at the graphics, it's based on this kind of structure. All of these airless tires run on a particular system of spokes or supportive structure that I've outlined, but it remains to be seen whether this is going to go into production for our vehicles. The military have been playing about with these sort of tires for all sorts of reasons, because you don't want to have a flat when you're in the field.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah.
And you said that the ride is supposed to be comfortable ride. It's not a hard ride.
They say that it is even more comfortable. It's got an even more compliant ride.
And again, who is they?
Yeah.
Kumo tires.
Do we have to get a new tire machine now?
That's right. Spoken like a true shop owner. Oh, another piece of equipment I gotta buy. First
That
it
is
was
the big question. That's the big question. Is all of this going to really happen? Because the retooling and the retraining of technicians who've got to know how to take these things on and off, you know.
We'll be bouncing him with beeswax or something kind of crazy.
Robert, Robert, thanks,
Mike.
Thanks for staying up late for us.
It's my pleasure. I know that you're going to ask me another question at some point, aren't you, Mike?
Maybe next week. I think it's past your bedtime, so we're going to do a
I'm going
break.
off to get my hot milk and cocoa now.
Thanks so
Trial
much,
and error, Robert.
Robert.
Just keep that in mind. Trial and error, baby.
Pleasure.
All right.
Good night, Robert.
Let's see what
I'm not
closing.
going to bed yet.
No, he's staying up. But he's staying up
You're all
for
wanting
the
me
party.
to go off to bed.
No, he's staying up for the party.
You've been talking about your pajamas all night.
Wearing them.
Have a hot cup of tea and hit a cup of tea.
Let's see.
Chamomile at this one.
Let's see what everybody's closing thoughts are. Peyton, we'll start with you.
Closing thoughts on the show. Well, it was an excellent show. I thought it went very, very well. The guests were fantastic. I learned a lot from the guests.
And
tonight.
where can people find you?
And where can people find you?
Peyton?
Oh, about me.
Yes.
Mike was trying to say, give a plug. I think it's what he was saying. Where can we find you?
Okay. You can find me in Morris County, New Jersey, Ledgewood, and also at www.knightsautomotive.com.
Nice. And Jeff, how about you?
And can people find you in the day also?
They can.
Not just at night.
No,
You
not
can
just
find
at night.
them.
It's right. You're a guy.
You can find Knights Automotive on
Jeff,
Instagram.
Jeff, where do
I
we
don't-
find you in the daytime?
I don't know about everybody else, but this has been an inspiring show. I thought Mark was an amazing guest. Thank you so much for bringing him in, Alex. Again,
Sure.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mike, you too. You can find us at in College Point under the Whitestone Bridge. We're not trolling today, but we did yesterday.
New York
Catch an
Transmission.
You're only in the daytime, is that right?
NYTransmissionGroup.com, NY Transmission Group. To give us a call and we'll help in any way we can.
All right, Jerry and Johanna, where do you spend your days?
I spend them in Seaford, 3830 Merrick Road. My website is D&J Diagnostics Auto Repair. And I'm glad you guys had Mark Green and not Mo Green.
He's
I was a little
next to
confused on that one.
He's next.
He did you a show you can't refuse.
David,
Yes.
we know you hang out in Brooklyn.
Yeah, so I'm in beautiful Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. It's Urban Classics Auto Repair. You can find us at urbanclassicsautorepair.com. And we do fix flat tires.
And people can
'cause in
just
Brooklyn- yeah,
people can just follow the trail of potholes to you.
That's it. That's it. And,
I've been there
yeah.
many a time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to those Kumo tires because there's no money in fixing flat tires.
Robert Erskine, we know you hang out across the pond.
Yes. You can find me on my website, www.roberterskine.com. You can see some interesting things. And I'll be posting in the next few days an interesting little pointer about a jet engine.
Oh, teaser.
Wow.
Teaser. I love
Okay.
it.
Is this
You
a
get a lot of
working
teasers.
model or the one that you created?
It's the one that I created.
Ooh, I want to see that.
Very
All
cool.
right.
And Alex, I know you hang out in New Jersey, but next week you're going to be in Florida.
Yes, I am. I'll be at the Amelia Island Concourse.
Whoa.
Again.
Show off.
I was going to have fun and see the show, but I got asked to volunteer and for either Saturday or Sunday.
Show off.
And I said, I tell you what,
No.
I'll help you on both of them. I'm not going to see the show, but
Yeah, twist
I owe-
my arm, right, Alex? Twist
I
my
owe,
arm.
I owe it to Bill Warner, though. I'm not
Little
I-
violin I'm playing for you right now.
we did it. Nah, it's-
Have a
Look,
great
yeah, I'm gonna have
time,
a
Alex.
blast.
Alex, have a great time. It's going to be an
Thanks.
awesome time.
And
Thanks.
drive carefully.
I will.
Otherwise, call me.
Mm.
Ian,
Yes.
where are you? Where are you rebuilding your
My
cars?
YouTube channel, youtube.com/Ian Carr. That's IANKARR. It's getting close, guys. I'm going to be putting the engine in pretty soon. I mean,
All right.
Baby.
Suspension,
Oh, baby.
suspension is all in. I almost have wheels on the car. So
I wanted to see that moment you started.
How
We're
are
doing
your
live here? I'm
Ian,
gonna do it live on the show.
Perfect.
and how are your knuckles now after you put that suspension together?
They're busted, of course.
I got some. Yeah.
It's the
Hey,
busted
we're good
knuckle
now.
garage.
But
Yeah.
the main question at this point is, do we all get to drive it?
Absolutely. Especially, Mike, if you come and help me do the alignment like you promised.
I would do the alignment, no problem. That's my
All right,
specialty.
guys.
All right.
All right. And I'm here at the Gold Shield headquarters again. And it was really nice of Mark Green to point out the benefits of helping other people better their lives. And that's what we're here all about. And that's why all of us have joined Gold Shield. And hopefully we'll get everybody else we know to join.
And what's the
People
website for
should
Gold
go-
Shield, Mike?
Yes, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's the goldshield.us, thegoldshield.us. Everybody go on there and sign up as an ambassador for free, or a business. There's a small charge. Everybody go to thegoldshield.us and help us save veterans' lives.
Go gold, baby. Go gold or don't go at
right.
all.
That's it.
Great
That's
show,
it.
guys.
Remember what Mark Green said. There's nothing better than helping other people be
That's
happy.
it.
Absolutely.
Very true.
Absolutely.
Pay
All
it
right,
forward.
thank you.
Guys.
And we'll all
Thanks,
be back.
everybody.
We'll all be back here next week, except for Alexander, who's going to be representing us at Amelia Island.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. We'll
Okay.
see you next
Okay,
week.
good night,
All right,
everyone.
next
Bye.
week.
Good night, everybody.
Good show.
Good
Thank you,
night,
everybody. Thank
Great
you,
show.
everybody.
Be well.
Have a great week.